IDSpace, the end of usernames and passwords. In this presentation, I'll be going over the statement of purpose, background information, threats, attacks, and control strategies, how it works, and the pros and cons. We've all been there. We create a login credential for a website that we use to purchase items, visit a social media site such as Facebook, or a college-university website to turn in our assignments. How many of those times have you created a username and password for a website only later to forget what that login information was? Some websites may require different symbols in their input, while others don't. What were some of the common ways you remembered your credentials? More than likely you had to write them down physically, reuse passwords, or create weak and easy to remember credentials. The weakest part of any security system is the user. What if there was a system that could securely manage all of your credential datasets and identity? There may be a solution to this dilemma, and it's called IDSpace. The goal of IDSpace is to simplify the use of existing technologies, provide a single user interface, and create a system that is easy to adopt. The goal of this presentation is to explain how IDSpace works, talk about the security threats it can safeguard against, and state the pros and cons of the technology. One of the main considerations for the developers of IDSpace was Microsoft's CardSpace. This is very evident as the IDSpace name was created to pay homage to the CardSpace technology. CardSpace, like IDSpace, was a client-based software meant to support users' digital identity, replace password-based login systems, and improve confidence in the identity of remote applications. This technology was developed by Microsoft and introduced in 2006, but the initiative was aborted in 2011. This is a graphical representation of the CardSpace functionality. CardSpace implemented a user interface known as Identity Selector, which established relationships with identity providers and represented those as user credentials on cards. CardSpace also defined a set of protocols for interactions between the identity providers, clients, and service providers. The design allowed users interacting with the browser to have identities issued by several identity providers. Each identity was represented by an info card, which interacts with the identity selector to choose which identity to use. Each identity provider runs a security token service to generate security tokens after authenticating the user. IDSpace is based off the now-retired Microsoft CardSpace user identification application, and IDSpace works with a wide range of security and authentication applications from other vendors. Authentication methods that are used today, while providing some level of security for end users, are not perfect. Broadly speaking, the major problems for current authentication methods include phishing attacks, lack of consistency between the various identity management systems due to the varying password requirements, and privacy because we live in an age where more companies and places are stockpiling information for the wrong reasons. These threats are planned to be alleviated with IDSpace. That is not to say that IDSpace is perfect in any sense. Just like the most cautious of security professionals, IDSpace is susceptible to fall for the more sophisticated phishing attacks, and the end users still hold a ton of responsibility in preventing information from falling into the wrong hands. At first glance, IDSpace appears to be a password management system. However, it's more than that. It ties together existing protocols into one easy-to-use program. IDSpace is designed to prevent password theft and phishing attempts by letting users create a card verifying the identity of a website they use and issuing an alert if they try to log on to a malware site posing as the real thing. IDSpace architecture is designed to be platform independent, which means it can work on various platforms such as Windows, Linux, Unix, Mac, and smartphones, unlike its predecessors. IDSpace enables the use of multiple ID management protocols with maximum transparency to the end user. Therefore, there is no need to install multiple ID management protocols. IDSpace is designed so that tools are able to work with all the various existing internet service providers and identity providers due to the fact that it would be developed using C++ and/or JavaScript. The card selector provides the user with a visual representation of all user credential sets in the form of virtual cards, which are known as credential cards. The card selector works by storing secure electronic identity cards which contain the given sets of credentials on the end user's given platform. A credential card can contain a wide range of credential types which include the following: ready-to-use credential tokens such as username and passwords, which will be referred to as local credential card, a pointer to a remote credential issuing party, which is the identity provider, and the pointer would be referred to as a remote credential card. IDSpace is comprised of the following components: the card selector, which presents a card-based interface to the user to enable the choice of identity provider and credentials; the C-card store, which stores credential cards containing credential information; the credential store, which is secure storage for keys, passwords, and attributes, and is associated with the C-cards; the kernel, which is the core component controlling system operation; the page scanner, which scans the web pages; and the activator, which activates the card selector. You may be asking yourself, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of this application? The pros of IDSpace is that it is a secure system, it is compatible with multiple already existing identity management protocols, it has user-friendly graphics, it's an intuitive application and meant to be used with ease, it has a phishing option built into the application to check if the remote website pointer is a legitimate website, it is a user-driven application, it works on a number of different platforms, and it has future possible implementation of a cloud-based system to increase portability. The cons of IDSpace is that it is still in prototype stages, so it is not widely implemented or supported at this time. Its potential to not be as effective as planned due to user diligence and error, and subject to vulnerabilities locally on the computer if not properly protected with firewall and antivirus software. In summation, the username and password system has shortcomings which need to be addressed. IDSpace is a client-based tool meant to provide a single user interface for already existing ID management systems. It hopes to simplify the use of existing technologies, and it aims to be easy to use and adopt.